Welcome to Rob and Tony's Cinematic Adventure. I'm Rob Wilson.
And I am Tony the Quano.
So, Tony, let's travel to the late 90s, where Hollywood was obsessed with natural disasters.
Yes.
We had several years where there were at least two movies that were almost identical.
Almost identical.
That would come out in the same year. So, 96 we had Twister, but there was not really any other identical movie to Twister, but we did have another disaster movie, Independence Day, in 96.
I'm going to add this to this, actually.
Yep.
We almost forgot. I almost forgot about this one when we were talking before the show. There was not another 1996 movie that was an alien attack movie.
Oh, yes. Mars Attacks. Mars Attacks. Yes. So there we go.
Continue. I'm sorry.
So yes, we got Independence Day and Mars Attacks, both in 96. Twister off by itself, just because that's a great movie and it really doesn't need a clone. Then, 98, we've got Armageddon and Deep Impact. One about an asteroid that's plummeting toward Earth. The other is a comet that's plummeting toward Earth.
I'm sure it's not Ron Jeremy.
It could be. Although I think you might be thinking of the wrong Deep Impact. Or the right one, depending on how you look at it.
I'm sure he made similar themed movies in the same year.
But right between those 2 years, we had 1997, where there were two movies. One starred Tommy Lee Jones, and one starred Pierce Brosnan. The Tommy Lee Jones one was Volcano. The Pierce Brosnan one, which we're going to be talking about today, is Dante's Peak.
Dante's Peak.
So, and this is probably the last time that we're going to refer to him as Pierce Brosnan and not Bond.
Yeah.
James Bond. Because the whole time I was watching this movie, I'm sorry, but he plays a character named Harry Dalton, but he is not a Harry. Come on. You look at him, you don't think this guy's name is Harry. No. He is James Bond.
All right. So, in granted, this is actually after GoldenEye, right?
Yes, it is.
But before Tomorrow Never Dies was the second of the...
Yes, the second of the Brosnan ones. No, the second of the Brosnan ones, Tomorrow Never Dies.
Right, which had not come out yet. That came out later in 97.
Yeah.
Right? So this came out, this was like a early release, like February-ish, I think. And Tomorrow Never Dies was at the end of the year, if I'm not mistaken. Which a lot of Bond movies tend to be end of the year.
Yeah.
But at the same time, GoldenEye had become such a hit, and the 64 game, and even before he was cast as Bond, everyone kind of thought it's Pierce Brosnan being a good choice as the next Bond.
Well, Pierce Brosnan was supposed to be Bond instead of Timothy Dalton.
Right.
He was supposed to be Bond in the late 80s, but there was a conflict in schedules with Remington Steele. So he was already contracted for that, so he couldn't do Bond. So they ended up going with Dalton. I just find it strange that they would give him the last name of another Bond. Yeah, I thought that too. I was actually just going to mention that.
the prior Bond, right? Timothy Dalton never gets enough credit for being Bond in some ways. I think he's being revisited a bit these days. People going back and checking out the Dalton Bonds. But yeah. But we will henceforth call him just Bond. James Bond.
Yeah. And same with Linda Hamilton. I mean, she plays Rachel Wando, but she's Sarah Connor and will always be Sarah Connor.
And what's interesting for both is that this is probably one of the most notable movies outside of those roles. I think Pierce Brosnan, people also get Mrs. Doubtfire.
Yes.
Probably like his one other role. And for Linda Hamilton, like if you could remember like the Beauty and the Beast series that she was in.
Yep, with Ron Perlman.
Or if you want to go further back, kind of before she was probably about the same time she became Sarah Connor, was Children of the Corn.
Yes, Children of the Corn. But she will always be Sarah Connor.
Who this movie also had, who's also in this movie, is Charles Hallahan.
Yes, Charles Hallahan.
Which was, I think it was technically his last filmed movie before his death. But there was another movie he made that did not get released until like 4 years after his death. And it was also not so much famous for his acting. He's had a few notable roles, I guess, or other supporting roles. Grant Heslov, who would really go on to be more of a producer than an actor.
In the 90s, if you needed a Middle Eastern guy, Grant Heslov was your man. He was in so much in the 90s.
Yes.
He was even in a Schwarzenegger movie. He was in True Lies.
He was in True Lies. That's right. Even though it's funny because like they would cast him to be Arabic, though he's Jewish.
Yeah.
But in this movie, he just plays a coffee fanatic.
Yeah, he is way too crazy about coffee.
We'll get into that. That's like one of the notes I had. Grant has
Me too.
Coffee.
Yeah. I just in my notes I just put dude gets way too excited about coffee.
I get you're in the Northwest and like you can get some good coffee, but like the dude, as we get into, is like he actually does live in the Northwest, so it's not like he should be deprived of good coffee. I mean,
yeah.
So, but yeah, that was, it's also the time, like, I was thinking about this as we were kind of discussing kind of the movies in pairs and just the disaster movies in general, right? Because it didn't have a pair, but like Godzilla was 98. That's kind of a disaster type movie. It's just a big lizard, right?
Yep.
So a few years later, you have The Day After Tomorrow, and there's kind of a shift a little bit. Did still have your action movies, but they started kind of shifting towards kind of a more disaster-oriented theme to them. And, then you also just had like the natural disasters, like you're saying here, and, Twister, Dante's Peak, and Volcano. And I saw both Dante's Peak and Volcano in the theater.
I did not see either one in the theater. I saw Volcano on video after it came out, and I didn't see Dante's Peak until last night.
And
last night was the first time I saw Dante's Peak when I watched it for the podcast. Now, I had seen about 2 minutes of it when I was on TV one time when Graham is about to jump into the hot spring.
Yeah.
I did see that small portion of it back years ago. But
it's a pretty notable scene. So
it is.
There's another scene later in the movie where the water becomes dangerous. It's also quite memorable. But we'll get into that. I just remember it being kind of funny at the time because, like, I think there's still debate about which is the better Volcano movie, Dante's Peak or Volcano. And I mean, Volcano decided to go all out and say there's a massive volcano under Los Angeles.
Yeah.
And Tommy Lee Jones is going to stop it with Anne Hesh.
With some concrete barriers.
So, and this one's got James Bond and Sarah Connor.
Is there a better team up?
The volcano.
Is there a better team up than James Bond and Sarah Connor?
Of course not. There is not one. I mean, you just need M and Michael Bain or Reese to show up.
Yeah. Yeah.
To do something.
Yeah.
By the way, Sarah Connor's daughter in this movie remarkably looks a lot like her.
Yes. Yeah. I was thinking the same thing. I was thinking the same thing. Like, that little girl could be Linda Hamilton's kid.
Like, they must have just, that's what they did.
Yeah.
No, they just traveled back in the time. She got Reese to travel back to like when she was a girl, and they just brought her to the future.
Yeah.
To 1997.
Or they just found a little girl named Jamie Renee Smith who looks eerily similar to a young Linda Hamilton.
Because, her son, Graham, or Jeremy Foley, I mean, Grant, he's a boy, but, I kept stretch to think that related.
Yeah, I kept getting Joseph Gordon-Levitt vibes for him.
He's got that very 90s boys haircut.
Yeah.
Where it's parted in the middle and it's long and it goes off to the sides.
But like the first couple of scenes that he was in, I had to keep reminding myself that in 1997, Joseph Gordon-Levitt was a lot older than he is.
No, that's right. Yes.
So it can't be him.
Joseph Gordon-Levitt, like he was probably that age, like in Angels in the Outfield.
Yeah, because 97 was right around the time where he was on Third Rock from the Sun.
Yes.
With John Lithgow.
With John Lithgow. I just saw John Lithgow in Interstellar. Yeah, the boy didn't do a whole lot of other movies. He was in an episode of Touched by an Angel.
Yes, he was.
Whereas Jamie Renee Smith, she was in a Children of the Corn sequel, apparently.
Yes, she was. Children of the Corn 3, was it? No, maybe?
4. She was also in MVP, Most Valuable Primate. So there was this other thing that was popular in the late 90s.
Chimp movies?
That got started by the movie Air Bud.
It's animals playing sports. If it wasn't a dog, it was a chimp.
And when we say dog, it was almost always a golden retriever.
It was almost always the same golden retriever.
Which probably just died, and that's why they stopped making any movies like
probably. Maybe that's why they moved from Air Bud to Air Buddies when it's puppies, so they can like make more movies. But But no, because we had MVP, Most Valuable Primate, and there was Ed.
Oh, that's right. It was
where
Ed.
a chimpanzee played baseball with Matt LeBlanc.
Oh my goodness. I forgot about that one.
Yeah, so the 90s were full of interesting concepts for movies.
Here's another one that I've never heard of. The Karate Dog.
The Karate Dog. Wow. Is that like Chuck Norris's dog or something?
I don't know. None of these should be confused with the 80s classic Teen Wolf.
No, Teen Wolf is a classic. It is truly a classic, and it is wonderful, and we are going to be doing it one of these days because it is a fantastic movie. But we will probably skip Teen Wolf 2. TOO.
Teen Wolf 2, thanks for everything. Julia Newmar. Not sure we're doing that movie either.
Yeah, probably not.
Anyhow, back to Dante.
A Swayze movie we might not do. Wow.
Are we doing Ghost? Is that like
I don't know.
Ghost?
I don't know. Are we?
We probably do need to do Ghost. I've never fully seen Ghost.
You've never fully seen Ghost. We
No.
might have to do it then. It's been years since I've seen Ghost.
It's because you haven't been around Nan. We were around Nan. You watch Ghost all the time.
Only because the barber cuts people's hair like Demi Moore. Oh,
We haven't done a Demi Moore movie either, so it's perfect.
We haven't.
Oh, whoopee. So, anyway, now officially back to Dante's Peak.
Yes, now back to Dante's Peak. So,
A movie I did see with, actually, I saw it with last week's guest, Tim. We saw this with my dad.
nice.
So, I think before the other night, I've seen it 2 other times. So,
All right. That's 2 more times than I have. Now, I watched it last night for the first time, and I really enjoyed it.
yeah, it's an enjoyable movie. I mean, it's not a great movie.
No, it's not great by any stretch, but it's enjoyable. I mean, it's a late 90s disaster movie. It's going to be enjoyable.
It's emblematic of its time, and it's stuck somewhere where, because like the performances are actually like really good, at least in terms of James Bond and Sarah Connor.
Yeah.
And like some of the effects are like really good, and it's one of those action movies. Like once the action gets going into it, it's like for the most part you really want to keep watching it.
Yeah,
and some of the effects are dated a bit, especially like especially the obvious computer stuff with the lava and all that. But some of the other effects are very well done. So
yeah, I mean the bodies floating in the hot spring are clearly dummies, but
yes,
like almost blow up doll level dummies.
I should say Charles Hallahan is also very good in this.
Yes, he is.
I find, as with some of these movies, the supporting cast is very hit or miss in terms of the quality of it.
Yes. Now, one that we didn't mention, we've got Tai Ma in this, who has been in a ton of stuff.
Yes.
You see him all over the 90s, usually as smaller parts or, just more side characters. Though he did play Consul Han in the Rush Hour movies.
Yes, I'm gonna say he was a couple of his other most notable ones is Rush Hour.
He was also in 24.
He's
with Kiefer Sutherland.
He's from Hong Kong, so it would not be. As we talk about Grant Heslov, he was typecast a bit.
Yeah,
he also got a lot of similar roles of the Chinese dude. But RoboCop 2, he was in that, and did a lot of TV also. I'd see him doing a lot of TV things like MacGyver and L.A. Law, Nash Bridges, NYPD Blue. So yeah, here he's not. This character, obviously he's Asian American because he is Asian, but it's not like his character is that specifically. It's just, and then the guy that breaks his leg,
Kirk Trutner, Terry Furlong.
Yeah, it's funny. Like I'm looking at the Wikipedia list, and his name is not up right away, which is really weird.
On IMDb, he's right there with the rest of the geologists.
Some user needs to edit Wikipedia.
Yep.
But I'm glad you brought up IMDb because like I was looking at this, right? So it's got a 6.0 on IMDb. Its Rotten Tomatoes thing is like 34%. And like that's why I always think Rotten Tomatoes kind of gets tricky because it's just taking the aggregate of negative reviews, but it doesn't show like how much of a stinker is it, right?
Yeah.
This movie is probably about a 6 out of 10.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
Maybe going a little bit lower, it's in that arena. And so it was a movie that played well in the theater, right? Because it's an action movie.
Yeah.
It's loud.
It's loud. It has a lot of like explosions and whatnot. Those look great.
It's got James Bond.
It's got James Bond. It's got Sarah Connor. I mean, the only thing it doesn't have is a Terminator sent by Blofeld.
There's Kurt Fretner. He was in Must Love Dogs. I remember that movie.
I don't think I ever saw Must Love Dogs. I did see The Truth About Cats and Dogs, though.
Oh, yeah. Don't know if we need to go. Anyway.
If we're talking about similar movies.
It's also got Elizabeth Hoffman as the old lady.
Yes, who Ruth. I was surprised at how few things she's done because I've seen her in so much.
Yes.
But it's really, I've only seen the few things that she's been in. So she seems like she's been in more.
Oh, that's right. I just realized the sheriff, Bill Belender, is one of the prisoners in Shawshank Redemption.
There were a few people in this movie in Deadwood.
I could see that. Yeah.
None that I've found from Doctor Who, though.
I did look into this a little bit before we get really into the actual story, but I didn't realize that, I guess, the Geological Survey, and then I think University of Maryland and other schools that have like volcanology departments and all that, geology departments, had like, because this is at the kind of the dawn a bit, right, of the internet being like accessible to most people.
Yes.
Right? So they had frequently asked question pages about volcanoes after this came out.
Huh.
And they talked about a little bit more about the science, right? And, what was accurate and what was not accurate.
All of it was accurate. Every bit of this movie was 100% accurate.
The engine snorkel.
Yes.
Was 100% accurate.
Everything in this movie was 100% accurate. All of it. Every
Even a
bit
little
of it.
volcano called Dante's Peak. Most people just don't know about it.
Yeah.
The Sasquatches move it around so you don't see it all the time.
Yes.
So you want to jump into this?
Let's do it. Spoiler alert, we are going to be talking about this entire movie, beginning, middle, and end. So if you have not seen it and you don't want to be spoiled, then pause the podcast, watch the movie, come back and listen. If you have seen the movie or you just don't mind spoilers, then keep on listening. But you have been warned. We are going to spoil the shit out of this movie. Starting with James Bond doing push-ups with terrible form. You would think a British spy would know how to do some push-ups.
But no, he doesn't. Wait, is that's after?
Yes, that is after. That is after
the beginning part
after
is
the beginning.
Credits, and
after
you're seeing chaos, and there's
after the little cold open.
There's a volcanic eruption going on in Colombia.
Yeah,
and James Bond is escaping.
Yes, he's driving and almost running over people. There are people running. And he's driving, and he's almost running over these innocent people who are trying to get away from the volcano.
These peasants live in this village, and he's like, you know what? Now that this is erupted, screw you. I'm getting out of here. Oh wait, no, I did pick up one of your chicks though. My plan is to marry her. She loves volcanoes. I'm going to marry her.
Yeah,
because he's James Bond. Spoiler alert: she dies
very quickly. She gets in the car with him. They're driving, and there's like lava and ash and rocks flying everywhere. And this smoldering rock falls on the roof of the car, breaks through the roof, and hits her in the head. She gets shot by a volcano. Like, does it burn through her head, or does it hit her? Because we don't actually see it hit her.
I mean, it burns through the truck, which no doubt that could happen. I mean,
yes,
it's getting hurled at an enormous speed. It's a hard object. It's also like on fire.
Yeah. So I have no problem with it going through the roof of the truck. But does it go through her head, or does it just hit her and the blunt force kills her?
It probably should just decapitated her.
Because we don't. It doesn't look like it went into her. It looks like it just hit her because, like, she's bleeding from her head and whatnot. But with how hot and how fast that thing was going, it would have penetrated her skull.
Yes.
Especially if it just went right through the steel like tissue paper.
Right.
But anyway, she dies right next to James Bond.
He's distraught, and he goes on to the film On Her Majesty's Secret Service. Well, and now George Lazenby comes in.
Well, even though that was the end of On Her Majesty's Secret Service. Spoiler alert.
That's right.
Spoiler for On Her Majesty's Secret Service. So it would have been George Lazenby.
That is true.
Recreating the end of the movie.
Anyway,
but
no, we get James Bond, his poor form of push-ups.
Yes. So then, it jumps to 4 years in the future.
It says 4 years.
Yeah, 4 years later.
I'm just glad that he wasn't doing Tai Chi naked.
Yes. We saved that for William Forsythe in Die Hard 2.
I'm gonna hijack an airplane today.
Better do my Tai Chi naked.
The entire airport. But I gotta make sure I do my Tai Chi naked.
Better do some naked Tai Chi. You got to be ready to take on John McClane. That's what Hans Gruber did wrong. He didn't do his naked Tai Chi before meeting John McClane. But anyway, so James Bond is doing push-ups with terrible form. You're supposed to go all the way down and all the way up. He's going, first off, he's going way too fast to really be getting a workout from it. But he's also just going down maybe a quarter of the way, then back up. You would think that a British spy would have been taught how to do some decent push-ups.
You would think, but no. Anyway, so he gets a phone call, and it's a call from his boss about activity at Dante's Peak in the Northern Cascades.
Yes.
Now, I like the description here on Wikipedia when they're going through the plot. It says, 4 years later, despite the trauma he suffered in the course of his employment, Harry is assigned by his superior to investigate seismic activity. Well, if he didn't quit his job is to investigate and study volcanoes. Of course, he'd continue to be assigned by that. Now,
yes,
maybe he would have quit. Who knows? I don't know.
Yeah, but this was a year after Twister, where Helen Hunt, as a child, watched her father Swayze a tornado.
Yeah.
And then she went on to become a storm chaser. So,
yeah.
It's...
He studies volcanoes, and he just wants to be able to help other people not,
he's
potentially be devastated by volcanoes. Because he's seen firsthand the damage they cause.
Yeah, and he's one of those people that, uses his trauma to help people. Doesn't let the trauma scare him out of doing what he does best.
So, but what I think is interesting, though, is that they talk about activity at Dante's Peak in the Northern Cascades. And then you see him drive to the David A. Johnston Cascades Volcano Observatory in Vancouver, Washington, which would be in the Northern Cascades. So he actually just works in the Northern Cascades to begin with.
Yeah.
It would make sense that most people that would work for the government studying volcanoes would live on the West Coast or like Hawaii.
Yeah.
Where there's a lot of volcanoes.
Yeah. But
just as,
his boss, Paul, makes it seem like they had to travel a long way.
No.
Instead of just the next town over.
They never specifically tell you where so Dante's Peak, as we'll find out, is a volcano.
Yeah. It's a small
peak.
Well, it's a small town that is.
But it's also a town
on a volcano. Yeah.
Yes.
That's built on at the base of a volcano.
Brilliant idea. It's been dormant. Who cares?
Yeah.
Anyway, the town that they used was in Idaho, right?
Okay, so it's one of those Idaho volcanoes.
But most of the shots they use of the actual mountain or the peak are of Mount St. Helens, which is in Washington.
Which they mention in this movie a few times.
Yes, which is important. And anyone ever gets a chance to see Mount St. Helens, in my opinion, is an absolute must. You can still see so much of the destruction, right? And this is when I went. This was kind of crazy to think about. 15 years ago, it was about 30 years after the eruption. Now it's been like 45 years. But yeah, and it's the Cascades. It's a beautiful area, but then you see all this destruction from the air. That's kind of continued. So it's also near Mount Rainier, which we do see Mount Rainier in this movie at a certain point. So
yeah.
But David S. Johnston was a graduate student, or maybe he just finished. Maybe he just gotten his PhD. But he studied volcanoes, and he's famous for being killed in the Mount St. Helens eruption. And we have his famous last words on the recorded because he made a call in about the eruption. And yeah, anyway, so he gets there, and everyone's surprised, right, that Dante's Peak is showing activity because it's been dormant and hasn't shown any sign of any activity at all.
Yeah, but they don't really think it's much. They don't really, they think it's just maybe, a couple little glitches in
go in there
or just
for a few days.
That's not really important. They don't think anything big is going to happen.
Yeah, but they're doing the due diligence, at least to investigate.
Yeah, so James Bond gets sent on his mission to investigate the secret volcano lair of Blofeld.
And he gets there, and it's very much a typical small town looking place, right? He's got a main street, a couple other streets. See a school. There's a motel. He checks in the motel and he's asking for where.
But before he gets there, we get a couple of people who go to take a dip in the hot spring.
That's right. Because why not? Hey, and they're from California, so of course they want to take a dip in the hot spring.
Yes, they want to do a little skinny dipping in the hot spring. And I love these characters' names. We have David Lipper playing Hot Springs Man, and Heather Stevens playing Hot Springs Woman. Very creative names for the two people that are at the hot springs. But anyway, they get in there, and then the camera pans down, and we see, the bottom of the hot springs, and we see some red. We see some magma. And
now
some boiling. The place starts boiling, and the people are like, "Oh, it's hot." It's like it's a hot springs. That's why it's hot. That's how it gets the name. But then it gets too hot, and it boils them alive. But we don't really see that just yet.
Yes, we just hear the screams.
Yes, we hear the screams, but we don't see the results until a little bit later. Then we got Bond showing up in town.
Yep, he goes to the motel. He talks to the proprietor, and he says, he's looking for the mayor, which, Sarah Connor has relocated from Los Angeles to the Pacific Northwest to be a mayor. It makes sense because, they need to be protected from Skynet too. And he says, "Oh yeah, she's probably down the town square. She's going to be getting an award. We got the second best town to live in the United States, under 20,000."
Yes, under 20,000. They never mention what the best town is.
No, it's just some piece of crap in Montana.
Yes, some piece of crap town in Montana.
So you must really have something against the state of Montana. I didn't realize there was such antagonism.
I know. I didn't realize there was so much animosity between Washington and Montana.
But this is when we cut to Sarah Connor, and she's back. She's actually at her house right now.
Yes.
She's getting dressed, and her daughter's helping her. And to remember the name of the lady that's going to present them the award. And
is it Karen or Kathy?
Her daughter looks really annoyed that her mother does not know the name. It's like, Mom, come on.
It was Karen, by the way, not Kathy.
It's always Karen. It's always Karen. If it had been Kathy, everything would have been okay in this movie.
Yes.
Probably.
Yes.
It's Karen. It's Karen's fault.
There are so many Karens in this movie.
Yes,
but only one named Karen.
But we also see that she runs a coffee shop.
Yes.
And it's also their home. She's the mayor. Of course, the mayor of a small town. They probably need another job as well. So.
Yep. Well, it seemed to me like she had the coffee shop first.
Yes.
And then ran for mayor because she ran for mayor. Got to know people.
She's a coffee shop. As we find out later, she is actually from this small town, the Dante speak.
Yep.
And so, anyway, the three of them, because she's with her daughter and her son, they drive down, because they live close to the town center, but just a little bit outside of it.
Mm-hmm.
It seems like the coffee shop is kind of set perfectly for people that are kind of coming into town, right? Mm-hmm. Or for tourists if they're trying to go up the mountain. Yeah. Right? So, kind of situated nicely for that. So, they get down there, and now Pierce Brosnan's in the front row, and he's listening to her do the acceptance speech. Oh, sorry, that's right. James Bond. And so she accepts the award, and they're happy. And they talk about some other investor there who's going to invest some money into the town for some jobs, which I guess will probably be something probably touristy related. I mean, they're in the Northwest with a big mountain and some hot springs. I mean, I think that it'd be a good tourism spot to bring in some money. So,
or get some of those people from California that like to hike.
That's right. Find the Sasquatch hunters.
Yep.
I mean, come on. So she accepts it, and then James Bond approaches Sarah Connor, and it's not about Skynet that he's concerned about.
No, he's not. He's concerned about this volcano lair that Blofeld has. He thinks she has access to it.
No, he just simply says that, we've seen some activity that we haven't really seen, and I'm just going to take some further readings, and, I'm going to be here a few days to just check things out, make sure everything's okay, and be on my merry way.
Yeah, and she's...
Actually, I guess, you know what? She's not with her son at this point. It's just her daughter. Yeah, the son is in the mine.
Yeah, the son is playing with his friends in the mine. So she gives him a ride around town.
They go to the mine. She drags him out of the mine. And the mine doesn't really play much of a role until the end of this movie.
Yeah.
But you see it there.
You see it there.
It makes sense that it's the Pacific Northwest. Like some of these towns at first were basically mining towns.
Yeah. There's a lot of gold in them there hills.
Also a lot of asbestos.
That too.
Mesothelioma.
Yeah. Black lung. There's that too. Although that was more in the coal mines of the Appalachians.
That's more, yeah.
So she decides that after picking up her son, Graham, from the mines, then she decides she's going to take the kids to their grandma's house.
Yep. Her mother-in-law.
Her mother-in-law, Ruth.
At this point, we don't have a whole lot. We don't know, like, we haven't seen... Well, actually, we do now. It's like Reese was killed. So that's yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, and maybe, you know, she definitely checked up with some other people after that. So there's...
And,
anyway, no.
I mean, clearly she changed John Connor's name to Graham. To Graham Wando. Because it's like the polar opposite of cover. John Connor.
You'll never hear that name anymore, Graham. Like it was never super popular, but it seemed like it was kind of a slightly chick thing for some people in like the late 80s to name their boys.
Yeah.
You would come across Grahams every once in a while.
So now every Graham that I know of is an adult. I have not heard a child named Graham in a long time.
We don't fully know what actually, I guess they kind of do. She goes into like kind of briefly that like, yeah, no, like their dad just kind of left. And even Ruth would probably tell you that she doesn't even know where her son is.
Yeah.
But there's a, you know, they don't get along entirely, but we don't know where Sarah Connor's parents are. She grew up in the town. We know that.
Yeah.
Maybe they're dead.
But we don't know where they're.
So maybe they had to be rushed to secrecy. Anyhow, but so the mother-in-law is there, Ruth, and she's, you know, not the nicest person in the world, it seems. And
yeah, so they just show up at Ruth's house,
and she lives on a lake. So like lives a little further up the mountain, and there's a lake, a mountain lake that she lives on. Yeah, in like a log cabin type of house.
Yep.
And she says, like, you can watch him. Like, I'm going to show him around. I love how automatically when he says that, oh yeah, I'm studying your volcano. She's like, that thing's never going to blow. Like, you're wasting your time.
So there
are you an expert on this?
There's something that I wrote down on my notes that's I didn't write down till later in the movie, but it comes out pretty early that's this way. But all I wrote was the grandma is an idiot. And it shows throughout this movie. Especially later. When they're escaping the erupting volcano. But yeah, so
it's like, why does she care about him checking on the mountain? If it's not going to blow, he's there for a couple of days, and
yeah. But the first thing that he said to Sarah Connor, though, when Bond got out of the car, she asked him if that's her boyfriend.
That's right.
She's like, no, he's a geologist.
Ooh.
And then Bond corrected her. He's like, volcanologist, actually.
And then he does the little Vulcan salute. Was that later?
No, that was earlier, actually, when they had both kids in the car.
That's right.
And they asked who he was, and she said he's a geologist. He said
the crystal too. They had the crystal from the mine.
Yeah.
That he found, the smoky quartz crystal.
Yes.
Graham found it in the mine. He wants to see it. Yeah, there we go. And then Ruth's like, how about we go with you to do your readings? They go up the mountain, like, they can take a dip in the.
They were going to drop the kids off with Grandma, and Grandma was like, "Okay, let's just all tag along with their volcano studies."
She's just making sure that he isn't the boyfriend. She's like, you know what? No. I don't need a little baby around here. I'm not taking care of anybody else.
I don't need to be the grandmother of another savior of humanity.
So they're going up, and he's noticing a few little signs. He sees some dead trees around. He's like, how long have they been, dead? It's like, I don't know. I don't know if they died from the winter storms or but the small details that someone like him would probably pick up, and most people around there probably wouldn't think much about.
Yeah, and I mean, the pH levels in the water are a little bit higher than they're supposed to be. And and the dead trees, and
they found some dead squirrels.
Uh-huh.
And then we're like, all maggoty. There's the dead squirrels all over the place.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And then they get to the hot springs. And Graham decides he's going to just jump in there. And Bond looks at the hot springs and he notices something. And so just before Graham can jump into the hot springs, Bond catches him and doesn't let him jump in. Then Lauren, Sarah Connor's daughter,
gives a classic little girl scream.
Yes, gives a classic little girl scream. And they see 2 dead bodies floating in the hot springs.
Butt side up.
2 butt naked bodies. Floating butt side up in the hot springs.
I mean, they're pretty much completely, the flesh has been burned off.
Yes, they were extra crispy.
And serve them at Burger King.
They were flame broiled. So that puts the kibosh on swimming.
Hey, but Harry's going to stay, and he gets invited for eggplant parmesan.
Who?
Sorry, James. James gets invited for some of Sarah's famous eggplant parmesan.
Yes.
But he's also talking with his boss back in Vancouver.
Well, actually, before the whole eggplant parmesan invitation, so Bond decides that they need to put the town on alert. So they get all the town officials together, and they're all complaining, just like Jaws.
Get some other city council members.
They're all complaining, just like Jaws. When they were going to shut the beach down over 4th of July weekend. We can't shut this town down. We got tourism. We got all these businesses that are looking to invest in us. We got all this money.
He's going to pull that money out of town. And they got a point.
Yeah. And so, Bond calls his boss, Paul Dreyfus, and, tells him what's going on. And Paul doesn't believe him. He's like, hey, you sent me here to check. I checked. I found something.
Like, this is my professional opinion. And then, Paul, he arrives there as they're doing the meeting, and he kind of calls Paul out, not Paul. Paul calls Bond out. He's like, Bond, come on, what are you doing here? It's like, there's nothing, sure, there's a little something going on, but we can continue to monitor it for a little bit longer and see if anything else comes out of it. And
we don't need to scare all these people right now. There's no need, because then he, mentions what time in the past when he put a town on alert, and then nothing happened, and it devastated the town.
Right. So he's telling this to the entire, all the city leaders and town leaders, and so now they're even more upset. Now they're like, you better hope no one else has heard about this. Yeah. to Sarah.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So
then he thinks that Sarah's all upset with him, but she's like, Mr. Bond, do you eat dinner? Do you like eggplant parmesan? And then he's like, what? And she's like, I'm inviting you over for dinner. And he's like, why? She's like, as a thank you for caring.
But it's the next morning, and he's still around, and everyone else has kind of come in. And then she spills coffee on him.
Yeah, spills coffee on his hand because he's there. She lives at the coffee shop, and so he's sitting at the counter. She's pouring him coffee, and she just dumps it on his hand. But
Bond's like, okay, it's all right. And then they decided they need to head down because the rest of the team is in there, and they're down back at that motel. What's the motel's name? It had a clever name.
What was it? It did have a clever name.
So anyway, they're there, and the team of probably 5 or 6 of them, right? And she brings coffee for everybody. And this is when we finally meet our coffee guru, apparently, Greg, played by Grant Heslov, as we said. And he's really excited that she has coffee. And she's like, this first time she's like, I didn't know what everybody wanted. So she said, I just brought lattes for everybody.
No, she brought cappuccinos for everybody.
Cappuccinos.
Except for you, Mr. Bond, I brought you just a regular coffee.
That's how that's the key that she's, trying to come on and flirt with James Bond.
Yeah, that's the key that she wants Bond to, be the new
see Reese. Her peaks. And they're showing her some of the equipment, and they're talking about it. And I love how Greg, he's really interested. It's like, what machine do you use?
Yeah, he's like asking her all these coffee questions. It's like, do you freeze your beans? She's like, no, you never freeze your beans. It loses all the nutrients. It was
showing this
Cluster's Last Stand. That was
that's clever.
Yeah, Cluster's Last Stand. That was the motel.
Yeah,
but anyway, so he's asking her all these questions about the coffee, and
you're getting this kind of a sense of how this team operates. And they have this little robot. It's the one that that they can drive down into the crater.
They call it Spider Legs.
Get more readings where it's safer. What was that?
They call it Spider Legs.
Spider Legs, yes. And there's also a device on it that they got from NASA that's
yes
supposed to transmit a homing beacon.
Yeah, it's called the Elf.
Like a GPS type of signal, right? Which we don't hear much about later because they get annoyed with it and they rip it off.
Mm-hmm.
And we discover it, later.
Yeah, because they were NASA gave that to them so that they could test it out.
Yeah.
And they get annoyed with it, so they rip it off of there, and then we don't really hear about it till later. Yeah, till the end of the movie.
But anyway, it's important for later. And then they're talking about some of James Bond's exes, including someone named Astrid.
Yep.
Who was into crystals, not geological
not
crystals,
rocks.
But...
They're like, yeah, she liked rocks. I'm like, and then Bond's like, crystals. She liked crystals, not rocks.
And of course, her name is Astrid.
Yeah.
I always look. I'm sorry if anyone on here knows someone named Astrid, but I always look suspiciously on anyone that names somebody Astrid.
Well, I mean, the character Astrid in Fringe was pretty cool. Astrid Farnsworth.
Yeah.
She was pretty cool. But yeah, other than that Astrid, every other Astrid has been a crazy woman. At least
so what they're doing now is this is when you get a look at the actual crater and the peak of it. And this is where you have Mount Rainier in the background. So we know it's definitely Mount St. Helens, right? So you get Terry and James. They're up at the top of the mountain and they're trying to get readings from what was the robot's name again?
Spider Legs. They call it Spider Legs. Did they give it a different name than that? Or
no, Spider Legs is fine. So they got Spider Legs going in there. And
well, before they do that, though, they got in the helicopter and they're flying around.
That's right.
They're flying around the helicopter because you get the
aerial view.
Because then you get
a sense.
Dick of a helicopter pilot.
This is okay. I'm sorry. How were they not able to get a better helicopter pilot than this dude?
Because this guy, all he talks about is, if you make me fly during my lunch break, it's overtime. And then later, when they actually need him, he refuses to go.
And then he asks for more money.
Yeah.
Spoiler alert, he dies later, and I'm perfectly fine with his death.
Me too. Yeah, he deserved what he got.
But at the same time, you would think they would have some contacts with, the army, maybe, or...
Yeah.
Some other government contacts where they could get someone that's a lot better and less of an ass.
Especially since the helicopter they're flying around in is a Huey.
Yeah.
It's a Huey helicopter. So it very easily could have just been a military helicopter that they were flying in.
And I would think, given the circumstances of where they're flying and in case, they might need extraction, you want someone that's reliable.
Yeah.
And able to kind of, even up there, there's a lot of different wind shears. It's it's not the easiest place to fly in some of those areas. So you want someone with good experience.
Yeah.
Anyhow, we don't like the pilot. And they're definitely not meant to like the pilot.
No. So yeah, they're flying and then they decide, well, tomorrow let's actually go down in there.
Yes.
So
Christopher Murray plays the pilot.
So, they go on land and then, Bond goes over to Sarah Connor's house for dinner and does magic for the kids. Does a few little magic tricks. And
That's right. I forgot about that. They have some coffee on the deck where they look out on the volcano. We never find out if the eggplant parmesan is very good or not.
No, we don't. No, we don't. We never find out how good of a cook she is.
The next day is, like you said, when they actually go into the crater with Spider Legs. But Spider Legs is having some trouble. So Terry decides to go down.
Climbs down to go and try to fix it, try to figure out what's going on with it. And then there's a little earthquake.
Yep. And so a bunch of the rocks are in there. They start tumbling down into the crater. But they also kind of pin him and trap him.
What we didn't mention is when they were taking readings when they were flying in the helicopter the day before, and then also when they're in there, none of the readings that they're getting indicate a soon-to-be eruption.
Yeah.
So Paul is getting more and more frustrated with Bond.
Because all the earthquakes, they're around 2.0 on the Richter scale. They're not very heavy earthquakes. So anyway, one of these happens, and there's a little rock slide, and it pins down Terry, and he crushes his leg. And so they have to call the helicopter pilot
and
wants more money.
He wants more money. He's not going to go save a guy's life because he wants more money.
Well,
so
that's when you get Stan, right? He's like, the damn helicopter pilot wants more money.
Yeah.
And Paul's like, just give it to him.
Yeah, Paul's just give him what he wants.
Duh. You don't have the luxury right now to haggle over price. So, they But they're able to lift Terry and Bond out of the volcano.
Yep.
And obviously, it crushes Terry's leg, so he's off to the hospital.
Yep. And then for the rest of the movie,
he confronts Paul more about this. He's like, "You got to put this town on alert."
Yeah. And this is
these tremors are shallow; they're close to the surface. Is kind of his big rationale.
And Paul basically tells Bond, you were supposed to be on vacation, but you're not. So take your vacation. We'll see you in 2 weeks. And then later that evening, the crew goes to the local watering hole, and Bond is sitting there at the bar.
Yep. And they're deciding to they've determined that they're going to kind of leave soon because there's hasn't been as much activity over the last couple of days. And so, that's it. They gave them time. And yeah, these are going to go on vacation. Got a little, local watering hole, pool tables. And, Bond is still convinced that something's going to happen. And we're like, no, we haven't had anything in 2 days.
Although real quick, before they went to the volcano, we missed Greg getting excited about coffee again.
Oh yes,
because it was the next day. They were getting everything set up, and he's like, "Ooh, coffee time!"
She had everyone's orders this time, right? That's what I made that note. Laugh out loud. Coffee time.
Yeah, because that's when I made my note. Dude gets way too excited about coffee. But
I had a feeling that he's more enamored with Sarah Connor than James Bond at this point.
Yeah, he just wants her coffee.
No. He just wants me for my coffee beans.
Yeah. So anyway, Bond and Paul are sitting at the bar talking, and Bond is explaining, "You sent me out here to check because I'm your best man. I'm the best person on your team." And Paul agreed with him that, yes, you're the best. So if he is his best man, why doesn't he listen to him?
I don't know.
If he is the best he's got, why doesn't he listen to him?
Good question.
So Bond basically convinces him to let him stay on. To let him stay on the investigation. And convinces him to let the crew stay a little bit longer, so they can do a little bit more checking and get some more readings.
That's right, and that's when you get the week.
Yeah, because he agreed to stay for 2 days, and then this is when they're like, "Okay, fine, we'll stay a week."
And then, after a week, there's nothing. They're gonna leave. So last night, in the back of the bar, and Sarah Connor's there. She's like, "I wish you wouldn't leave. I would show you my peaks."
Yep. So she goes back. She takes him back to her house for some coffee. But here's another thing I wrote in my notes about this scene. Bond doesn't want coffee. Bond wants sex.
He's like, "Your coffee's terrible."
Because she offers him coffee and he pulls the Bond moves on her. And they're about to get it on.
They're about at first, like, oh yeah, we haven't. Neither one of them's done this in years. No, you're lying, James.
They're about to get it on. They're about to go to her bedroom and reach emotional catharsis when the ground starts shaking.
Saw a monster outside the window, so she needs a glass of water.
Yes.
Oh, that's the wrong movie.
Well, it could happen in this also. They're in the Pacific Northwest. Sasquatch is all over the place. But
no, she just needs water.
No, so they're about to, and
which is fortuitous that she actually needs a glass of water.
Yes. So Sarah Connor goes to get a glass of water, and the water's all nasty. Like it's all like brown
and she's like, oh, like the pipe burst. And we're just getting like dirt and mud in this. And he's like, wait, let me smell this. And he smells it, and it's like pungent. It's like sulfur. It's like, yeah, that's where the town's water supply is. Okay, so now he's angry because this volcano has blocked him.
Yes. Yes, this volcano has blocked him from the one thing that he stayed in town for. And so he goes back to Paul.
He has seen Terminator. He knows the moves.
Yes.
Yeah, he knows. Anyway, so yeah, he goes to Paul. He goes back to the hotel. He wakes up Paul up. They go into the bathroom there, his room. It's like, yeah, no, like this is.
He's like, look at the water.
The town's water supply too. It's coming out of the walls. And say, okay, so now we're going to put the town on alert.
Mm-hmm.
Like something is definitely not good that's coming up here.
Yeah. So they call a town meeting, and they put the town on alert. And during the town meeting,
before they go that, they decide to call Ruth. Tell Ruth to come off the balcony.
Yes, but she's like, no, I'll just stay up here.
I'll stay up here. I'm gonna ride it out like a hurricane.
I'll just stay up here near like the crater of the volcano. Nothing will happen up here.
I'm not gonna listen to the dude that literally studies these things. Anyhow.
The grandma is an idiot.
grandma is an idiot. Anyway, so the two, Bond and Connor, they leave. They leave the kids there. The kids keep trying to call grandma.
Yeah. So they leave the kids at home, and
they go to the high school gymnasium.
Yes.
And obviously people are kind of on edge and afraid, and they want to know if this is true, or hey, listen,
or if they have to wait until the evacuation, or can they leave now?
Like, no, like leave now. Yeah. I would have left.
He's like, and so Paul's like, you can leave whenever you want to leave.
No one is forcing you here. This is not Outbreak. Donald Sutherland's not going to keep you in this town.
Yeah.
The interstate is right there.
Yeah. But before anybody can leave, the volcano starts to erupt. Tremor. There's a massive tremor, and it's not a graboid.
This movie needed Fred Ward in it.
It did. It did need him.
Anyhow.
And Victor Wong.
Yes. So everyone starts pouring out of the gym, right? And they're looking up, and they're starting to see smoke kind of coming out the top of the volcano. And now it's just pandemonium.
Yeah. So people are running to their cars. You know,
there's a little girl crying and screaming on her steps. Where her parents are, I don't know.
But there's an old guy that gets trampled. You know, old guy gets knocked over, and people just start running over him, and then Bond helps him up to his feet before he, gets trampled to death. There's always, in movies like this, in disaster movies, there's always an old guy that gets trampled. I mean, it happened in Jaws.
Huh.
I can't think of any others that it happened in, but Jaws and this is enough to say that it always happens.
Probably happened Independence Day.
Probably. Probably.
We just don't see it. So probably better for anyway. So you see a church bell tower collapse, right? And people are driving everywhere. They're trying to get. So we haven't really mentioned it. I briefly just mentioned the interstate, right? Like I would have been on an interstate hours ago. As soon as they called that meeting, I'm like, you know what? If it's nothing, it's nothing. But how about we just leave before everybody else does? And
yeah, so we can actually make it out of town, and then if it erupts, it erupts. If not, we'll come back home.
So but I think it seems to be the interstate that kind of comes through town, and then there's another road that's goes across town too, right? So it's kind of like two ways in out of town. But right now, it's kind of focused on the interstate. You see a bunch of cars trying to drive up it, the on ramp. They get on to the interstate, and but that collapses.
Yep, it collapses.
All these cars go down. So that was really only the one way out.
This is a movie where you can absolutely tell when they're using miniatures.
Yes. They use a lot in this movie.
Like miniatures, movies are no strangers to using miniatures for especially like destruction scenes. But this one, you can tell when the road's collapsing, those are toy cars. There's nobody in them. They're not moving in a way that an actual car would be moving in that situation.
No, they're not.
The times where buildings are exploding and the camera's right in front of it, you can tell it's a miniature that's exploding.
Yes. You can.
But that just adds to the charm of it.
It does add to the charm of it. I think, it realized still the limits of CGI, and that the CGI just would not have been quite the same.
Yeah.
Now, had it been Christopher Nolan would have built an entire town, just blown the fucking thing up.
Yes, he would have.
I don't care.
He would have just blown it up, built a life-size, like full-size town, and just blown the thing up.
He'd put test dummies, dress them up, put them in his cars, blow them up.
Yep.
Right. What would it be like if you're just someone that was traveling an interstate that's just driving by a volcano and just starts to erupt?
I don't know.
I mean, you're a lucky one. You can just keep on driving. You don't have to worry about the people behind you trying to get on there. But
yeah.
Anyway. So now they're trying to get, she's trying to direct him through town because cars are going everywhere. And, to get back to her house to get the kids.
And keep in mind, the volcano doesn't start erupting until maybe the last half hour of the movie.
Yeah, no. It's not a full eruption. You got the big earthquake happens, and now it's just spewing up some,
about
smoke.
About the second half of the movie is where the tremors start. And then, it keeps on going like this. It's the little precursor moments until the actual eruption starts.
So, and you have the rest of the team. They're still hunkered down in the little command center they have in the motel, right?
Yep.
And they're keeping in contact with Bond. And Sarah's directing him back kind of different alleyways to kind of get back to her house to get the kids. But they get there, and there's a note.
There's a note. The kids are gone. The kids have been taken by Blofeld to his secret volcano lair. And if they ever want to see them again, Bond must bring him $1 billion.
So he figures out how to get the $1 billion, and they're going to go towards the underground lair in the volcano.
Mm. Yep.
But there's a bunch of traffic on the other way out of town. There's a bridge that kind of, goes across to kind of, get, whatever the other way out of town is. Anyway, and there's like a river or stream, right?
But no, the kids decided to drive to Grandma's house.
Yes.
They decided to take the car
over the river.
They decided to take
the
their mother's car These kids are kids, by the way. They're like maybe
like 9 and 11.
Yeah, like 9 and 11, 8 and 10, somewhere in there. And Graham decides he's going to drive Lauren to Grandma's house. So, in the middle of an erupting volcano.
Hey, I think about Grandma.
So they leave a note for Sarah Connor, and it's like, we went to Grandma's. Don't be mad at us.
So, but Sarah and Bond, they're having trouble getting out. So Bond decides to ford the river.
Yes. Hey, his Jeep has a snorkel.
And so his brilliant idea, he has the brilliant idea. And so other people are like, James Bond's fording the river. I can ford the river.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, they don't have snorkels.
They don't have snorkels.
But then as they're getting up to the bank of the other side, the wheels get stuck and he's having trouble getting enough power.
The wheels get stuck a lot in this movie when they're trying to escape.
Yes.
Yeah, whatever vehicle they're in, the wheels get stuck.
Yeah. Anyway. So, thankfully for them, because someone else decided to try to ford the river also, and then, their car starts to sink, right? So, there's a station wagon. T-bones the back end of Bond's truck and knocks it loose.
Yep, so they can keep driving.
As the water start pouring into his car.
Yes.
And he's able to drive up. And then everybody else just drowns. You see people standing on the roof of their car.
Yeah. Now, what I want to know is, why is this water fine? But the water later is just because the lake later is, closer to the peak of the volcano?
That's probably what it is. Or maybe this water does become like that later. No, but there's still the bridge. The bridge would theoretically collapse later. And the bridge is still there later.
True. Okay.
Yeah, so why is it fine?
Yeah. Because the water is coming into the car.
Yes.
Like, it's soaking their legs.
Yeah, no. Good question. Haven't thought about that. Good question. So they get up. They're trying to continue up the mountain. And now we get back, to Graham. And it's just like, this time now it's just, everything, the sun's blacked out. It's probably nighttime as well. You got ash falling. And they can't even see the road.
It looks like they're driving into a snowstorm.
Yeah.
Like if you've ever driven like during a blizzard, you get that like what looks like you're going to light speed.
Yeah. No, that's what
it looks like that, but it's ash and not snow. But yeah, so Graham can't see anything. And somehow they make it to Grandma's.
So they get up there. We don't see them yet. And she's like, Grandma's like, your mother's gonna be so mad at you. So meanwhile, they're still driving, and now we get a shot of the command center again. And the helicopter pilot comes in and decides he's just gonna start flying people out of the town for money.
Yeah.
He's accepting money to do this.
He's not doing it just, out of the kindness of his heart. He's doing it because he wants to be paid. That's the only way that he will save lives, if he's getting paid for it.
Correctly points out that this is a stupid move because it's a friggin' ash storm, and that's just going to get caught up in the rotors and crash the plane, which is what happens.
Yes. The ash gets caught up in the rotors, and the helicopter crashes. Not long after
Bond's car.
Not long after it takes off, but right in front of Bond's car.
Just that much luck to throw it right there.
Yep.
Right there.
Yep. It could be anywhere, anywhere in this town. And nope, it's right in front of Bond's car.
No, it's funny. It's right after it takes off. And he's a little bit out of town going up the mountain. Like, it probably should have been anyhow. They keep going up, and then there's a rock slide, which makes sense.
Yep.
Right.
There's a rock slide that blocks the road
to get to Grandma's house, and they finally get to Grandma's house. They get to Grandma's house this time.
Yeah, they get there, and
Sarah Connor's angry.
Yep.
And Grandma's like, "What did I do?" Yes, stayed on the mountain. Meanwhile, the dog went off into the woods. There's a dog.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. The grandma has a dog. Grandma has a dog, and they had the dog with them earlier when they went to the hot springs.
Right. So when they get there, right. So they get to the house, and then the dog runs off, and now they're all at the house, and now lava starts coming through.
Yeah.
house.
So they're like, okay, well, we can't leave because there's a rock slide that blocked the road. So let's just hang out in the house for a while.
Near the massive,
you're
the closest people to the crater of the volcano right now.
So then lava just starts pouring into the house, and they're like, "Oh,
which is weird.
We can't stay here anymore."
Thankfully, we do have a boat.
So I half expected Ruth, the grandma, to when they all decided to leave the house because the lava was overtaking it. I half expected for her to say, "You guys go. I'll stick around here. I'll stay here. It's okay.
I'm going down with the ship."
That woman is an idiot. So they're trying to figure out what to do because lava is coming down the mountain and it completely takes the house out. Like they barely get out of the house. They barely get out of the house before it's just drowned in lava.
It went down quickly. It's great. It's lava, so I could buy it, I guess.
So they're like, and then it also overtakes the car. The lava, flows all over the car. So like, what are we going to do? We can't get out of here. We can't go that way. And then they see there's a boat. Grandma has a boat. A little rowboat with an outboard motor on it. But no oars. Which comes into play later.
Yes.
So they get in the boat. And luckily there's gas in the engine, in the motor.
Yes.
And so, they start puttering along down the lake. Which you would think that size of motor would be able to go faster than like a trolling motor.
Yeah, no, it's slow. It's like there's not that many of them in there.
Yeah,
there's like 5 people.
I mean, it's like you're escaping. You're escaping from
elderly lady.
You're escaping from an erupting volcano. I think they'll let you by with making a little bit of a wake.
The Coast Guard's not gonna care. So they sputter along, and then all of a sudden they start seeing water coming through like the bottom of the boat.
Yes, it's a metal boat. And they see water start coming up through the bottom of the boat. And Bond is like, "Oh shit. This water is basically acid now. The pH levels have risen so high that it's essentially just acid." So he's like, "Everybody pick up your feet." So everybody puts their feet up. And then he's got to remind Ruth to pick up her feet.
Hey, Ruth, get your damn feet up.
It's like, Ruth, pick up your feet. The woman is an idiot.
Right. And obviously it starts.
And Lauren is scared. Lauren is terrified. So Graham gives her his crystal. He's like, "Hey, if I give you my crystal, then will it make you feel better?" And she's like, "Yeah, I can have it." He's like, "Yep, you can have it."
And James Bond's like, "We need a song." So he starts singing "Live or Let Die." Yeah. He sings "Row, row, row your boat."
He starts singing "Row, row, row your boat." And then Sarah starts singing "Row, row, row your boat." Like they start doing it as a round. Then everybody else starts singing, and they're just having a happy boat trip on the lake in acid. A happy acid trip on the lake.
But then finally,
then the boat stops. The boat stops, and so he lifts the motor out of the water, and the propeller is completely eaten away. So he looks around. There's no oars, so they can't row manually. So he takes off his jacket, he wraps it around his hand, and he uses his hand as an oar. The jacket would not stop the acid.
This thing is eating through a metal boat. It's going to get through cotton.
It's going to get through cotton pretty quick. But he's sitting there completely fine, just rowing away with his arm. It's just wrapped up in a thin, like, windbreaker.
But the bottom's still getting eaten up.
Yeah.
And now, like,
so the boat keeps on getting lower and lower, and they see the dock. The dock is close. The dock is close.
They were able to thankfully row directly across to a dock.
Yeah. So he's rowing as fast as he can, but they're afraid that the boat is going to be completely underwater by the time they get there, and then they're all going to die because they'll be floating in acid. And
so finally, Grandma.
So idiot Grandma,
Ruth,
she decides she's going to jump out of the boat and tow it to the dock. Just walk through the lake in the acid and pull the boat to the dock. The problem with that is, I mean, Ruth. I get it. Hey, great, trying to save her family. Awesome.
Yes. All for that.
All for, the sacrificial play, trying to, sacrifice yourself for the good of the team, for the good of your family, save their lives. Great. The problem with it is she barely touches that boat. She jumps in the water, grabs onto the boat, and starts walking forward, but she's not really gripping the boat to pull it. She's just kind of walking next to it while Bond is still rowing with his arm, and it never picked up any more speed. It's still going the same speed it was. It's still going the same speed it was when he was rowing before. So did she really help it get to the dock?
And then,
or did she just jump in the water for no reason?
She stays in the water and goes the long way.
Yeah.
Out of the water, because the rest of them, they get up on the dock and they get off of it just before it collapses.
So then she just walks out of the water onto the shore and then collapses because her legs like everything from her waist down took an acid bath.
Forrest Gump's like, "You ain't got no legs, Lieutenant Dan."
Forrest Gump's like, "Hey Ruth, you want to borrow my magic legs?" So then Bond has to carry her.
We forgot to mention this, that before it even gets eaten away, they started saying all the fish in the water are dead.
Yes. And that's one of the indicators that, Bond used to determine that it's acid.
And I love how, Laura is the girl's name, right?
Yeah, Lauren,
that's right. And she's like, "Is Grandma going to be okay?" Like, no,
Grandma's not going to be okay. Grandma's entire lower half is like full of acid burns.
Yeah. But then, she gets to say goodbye. And you know what? She's like, at least I get to stay up on my mountain.
Yeah, because they're walking through the woods, and Bond's carrying Ruth, and he puts her down so they can rest, and she's just laying there. And they keep on telling her, we're not far from the ranger station. And she's like, no, I'm not going to make it there. Just leave me here. And so Lauren, the sweet little girl that she is,
gives her the crystal.
She wants to give her the crystal for good luck. And she's like, no, you'll need that luck. You keep the crystal. Ruth dying could have been avoided.
Yes.
She did not need to jump out of that boat. If her jumping out and pulling the boat actually would have made a difference, then sure.
But no,
it didn't travel any faster than it was when he was rowing with his arm.
Now she's just going to be dead on that mountain, and eagles and bears are going to scavenge her.
Yep. Well, she'll probably get covered in lava first.
Find her like Mount Vesuvius.
Yeah.
Anyway. So they stay there. It's nighttime. And then the sun goes up. And, they decide to hike down to the ranger station where they're trying to see if there's a truck there, essentially, right? Because technically it's a forestry service station.
Yep.
But now, we get back to the town, and it's, again, it's next day. And they said, okay, I guess that's right. So we forgot to mention this is like as the things are starting to erupt, or right before the first earthquake with the town hall.
Yeah,
they're saying like the National Guard could not get there for another day.
Yeah, the National Guard can't get there for another day. So down in the town, the sheriff comes back. He's like, okay, the guard's been there. They've gotten any survivors they could that were still there out of the town. Yeah. So then
the rest of the people, which is interesting, we forgot to mention this too, is that night when they were kind of talking with, they ended up losing communication with Bond at some point. Paul was telling them, like, no, you guys leave now. Like, no, we're going to stay with you. We need to see the show.
Yeah.
Essentially. Right. Like, I get Paul staying. He's the boss.
Yep.
He's going to kind of see things through. But they all decide to stay. And now they're going to be leaving. So they're going out of town.
They catch a ride with the National Guard. They're riding in the Humvees. But Paul is driving behind in their van, which it looked like there was another seat in one of those Humvees.
Yes.
So why was Paul driving the van? Because they're driving across a bridge.
Yes.
And
now there's
the bridge is
massive landslides have pushed all the trees into this river. So it's broken the dam. There was a dam that eventually breaks because of all this.
Yes.
All the weight.
And so it's sending all the water down that the dam was holding back. And it's carrying houses with it and all this stuff. And so they're pulling up to this bridge, and
just a little trestle bridge. I mean,
it's just, a little trestle bridge. And there's a house floating down the river. Like a full house. Like Michelle is there and everything. She's like, it's like, you got it, dude. But yeah, so she's like standing on the roof, waving to him. Uncle Jesse's there, He's like, have mercy. But no, but there's this house floating down the river. And when I saw this house, I thought to myself, I'm like, when this house hits the bridge is going to go bye-bye. And this house is clearly it's like 15 feet away from the bridge, 10, 15 feet away from the bridge. And then they start to cross the bridge.
Yes.
They see this house, and then they get on the bridge and they start to cross it. And of course, right when they're passing about halfway to cross the bridge, right where the house is coming in, the house, it not only hits the bridge, but hits right where they are on the bridge. So, the bridge starts to, separate from the road on either side of the river and starts to get pushed along. And so the two Humvees they Dukes of Hazzard that thing.
Yeah, they do.
They Dukes of Hazzard that bridge. They jump off the edge of it onto the land. Meanwhile, Paul in the van right behind him. Why was he in the van? Why wasn't he just in one of the Humvees?
I don't know.
But he can't make the jump.
He's trying to make the jump. He can't.
He can't make the jump. So
those get out of the van.
He gets out of the van.
Jump.
He gets out of the van and then just stands there. He can still jump from where he is. It's not that far. He can still jump from where he is to where they are.
It was a very simple jump.
But no, he just stands there, and then the bridge sort of gets thrown back with him on it and the van on it. And I noticed when he's getting thrown back, he lets out a Wilhelm.
I love the Wilhelm in this because like they play the entire thing up dramatic.
It's a quiet Wilhelm, but it's a Wilhelm.
And like his facial expression is good. He's a good actor.
Yeah.
Right? He has like, oh shit, this is it. I'm kind of not going to say anything, but I'm saying my face goodbye to all these people. And they're horrified. And then he gets swept over, and then there's the Wilhelm. It's
a quiet Wilhelm, but it's a Wilhelm. And it does not fit at all with the tone of the scene.
It's a dramatic scene, and it's like, it's like they're giving some random bad guy, like, you know what? Screw you. You get the screen. You get the.
You didn't believe Bond. All this could have been avoided if you would just put the town on alert before.
And he even tells Bond, like, for what it's worth, I was wrong.
Yeah.
But like, you know what? I get where he's coming from. Like, there wasn't a lot of activity.
Yeah. I mean, it makes sense from his point of view. It makes sense from where he is. But yeah, so I mean, it's always I always look forward to Wilhelms. It's always great to see him and hear him, in movies. But this is kind of a wasted one.
Yes.
Not quite as bad as the one in Kingdom of the Crystal Skull.
No.
Not as wasted as that one, but
there's times where it's appropriate.
Yeah.
Like in Machete, when the car drops on the guy.
Yes.
He's just looking at it.
Or in Raiders, when Nazis get thrown off a cliff.
Yes. All appropriate. Anyway, there's Wilhelm. There's also the Wilhelm in Two Towers when the
yes, there is.
Blow it off.
Yes, there is.
Anyway, we'll do Two Towers one day, but not today.
But yeah, so Paul's dead. Went out with a Wilhelm. And then we get back to Bond and Sarah Connor and the kids.
And the dog comes back.
Yes.
The dog makes it somehow.
So yeah, they find a truck at the wilderness station, at the wildlife station, and Bond hotwires
it
because he learned how to do that in MI6.
But they didn't teach him how to do push-ups.
No. They figured he's more likely to steal a car than he is to do push-ups. So they get in the truck and they're driving, and then they see the dog. So as the lava's coming down through the forest where they just were, we get the dramatic saving the dog scene, just like Independence Day when they get Boomer to jump into the maintenance closet right as the explosion's coming by.
Movie cares enough about the dog.
Yes.
Let the dog live.
It would not be a late 90s movie without, like a late 90s disaster movie without a dog scene.
Yes.
Without a saving the dog scene. So this is this is right up there with the rest of them. So it's an important scene for the movie because, it dates this movie.
It does date this movie. So there's not a lot of things.
But also, dogs are awesome. So
yes,
save as many of them as possible.
There's certain things within the movie that can kind of date it, but there's a lot of other things where it's like, oh yeah, it's besides being a disaster movie where you're like, okay, yeah, it could be some other time period. But that's one of them is the dog scene. Anyway, so they keep going, and now they have to drive across like molten rock.
Yeah, so because there's another landslide, but this time it's a lava slide that blocks the road ahead of them. And Bond's like, well, I wonder if I can drive across. Or didn't Sarah ask if they could drive across it?
I think so.
And you would think that a volcanologist would know, that don't drive on molten lava.
It's rubber, I assure you. It burns.
So, but, it's black on top, so it's cooled there. It's cooled on top of it. So he attempts to drive across it. And, they get about halfway across and the tires catch on fire and truck catches on fire. And Sarah Connor points out, we're on fire. What gave you that idea? And you just see the tires just melting as he's driving. He gets stuck.
Again.
Only this time there's not another car floating by that can push him out of the hole. So he's just rocking the car back and forth, rocking the truck back and forth, going forward, reverse, trying to rock it like you're stuck in the snow.
See, this is when Grandma should have showed up and like,
yeah, gotten out and pushed. What's left of my body. Yes, this is when Grandma should have gotten out and pushed.
Anyway, somehow they get.
Yeah, somehow they get loose and they get out of there and they drive the rest of the way across the lava flow.
Driving on the rims of the car.
Yes. I mean, there's still remnants of tires left, but they're like just driving on the rims of the car. Passing a bunch of other cars, by the way.
Yeah, because there's other ones that are now, that are outside of town enough that they can get out, I guess, right? And
yeah, so
they're driving back into town because he wants to get
the elf system.
Which,
and so
really, at this point, like, he's kind of passing the places where he could have just drove the other way.
Yeah.
And got out of town.
Yeah.
Regardless.
But no, they've got to test the elf system.
So interesting to think about.
If it works, then they can use it to call
the bridge
a
was
rescue.
out. The bridge was out.
Yeah, the bridge was out because Paul Wilhelmed his way.
He gets back to the motel, Cluster's last stand.
Yes.
And all of a sudden despite the power of the computer still works somehow.
Yeah.
Because he's seeing all the readings that, oh no, now it's really about to blow.
Yeah, he didn't get that indication before.
But the computer's still on. Like, why is there power?
Yeah.
Like, we saw all the power lines been shut down. Anyway, so we get across where we see the rest of the team. They're at a safe enough distance, and they're kind of looking back out there now, right?
Mm-hmm. I still don't know why they stayed in that truck. They passed a bunch of other cars. They could have gotten out, hot-wired another one, and then they have fresh tires that they can drive on.
Okay.
And before you try to tell me that those other cars are covered in ash, so they're not going to work. The truck they got was covered in ash when he hot-wired it.
At least these ones have functioning tires. Anyway. So he gets Elf, and he's seeing the readings. And they get back in, and he decides that, okay, well, it's about to blow, so I'm going to drive straight into that mine.
Yeah, that mine that we visited earlier that Graham was playing in.
And this is what's weird here. So, like, then it finally does. It blows. Like, there she blows. It blows.
And there's,
And you see the team, they're seeing this, miles away, and then they're there, and then they're all the truck.
Then Terry is like, "It's nice knowing you, Harry." Sorry, it was nice knowing you, Bond. It was nice knowing you, James.
And the kids are like, "What's going on?" And Bond's like, "Oh, that's a pyroclastic boom or whatever, right?"
Yeah, pyroclastic smoke,
and they're seeing it in the rearview mirrors, and like, it's coming fast.
Yeah,
it's blowing up every miniature that they built.
Yes, it's blowing up every miniature.
His truck, as he's driving on rims, is outpacing this still.
Yes, it is.
But he's James Bond. I get it.
And so he just drives as fast as he can right to the entrance to the mine, busts through the door, and gets the truck stuck in the mine. But it's okay because they're inside the mountain now.
Which technically, wouldn't that potentially have dangerous gases in it as well?
You would think. One might think that being trapped in the epicenter of an erupting volcano would involve some dangerous gases.
Meanwhile, Bond's just
and maybe one or two earthquakes.
Secret hideout is.
Yeah,
I know Blofield's down here, and you're working for him, Graham.
So Bond kicks out the windshield of the truck because they can't get out any of the doors because they're wedged in there. So they get out. They leave Elf in the truck, but they don't realize until later. So Graham shows them their secret hideout, and he walks in there.
He's got some Skittles and some other snacks.
Yeah, he's like, "Hey, I got some drinks and some snacks over here."
Which, hey, it's perfect. I mean, they need them. So, man. And that's when Bond realizes, oh, I forgot the Elf. And that's his little toy.
And they're like, "What's Elf?" And he's like, "It's a movie starring Will Ferrell." Directed by Jon Favreau. It's got Sonny Corleone in it.
Oh, my. So he starts walking back, and he gets the truck, but he triggers like a little cave-in.
Well, he doesn't trigger it. It just happens while he's walking back.
It just happens. All right. Anyway.
But before that, though, the kids don't want him to go. So,
and he talks about deep sea diving.
Yeah, and
deep sea fishing. Deep sea fishing.
Yeah, and Lauren has hit her head, so her head's bleeding, and she tells
because
her mom,
my
head hurts, and she's like, "It's okay, mine does too."
It's okay. It's just a concussion.
It's okay that your head hurts. Mine hurts too. So, to try to comfort all of them before he leaves to go get the elf system, and he asks if any of them have ever gone deep sea fishing, and they're like, "No, we live in Washington." We live on a volcano.
We don't live on the coast. We live in the mountains.
We live in the mountains of Washington on a volcano. No, we have never been deep sea fishing.
We fly fish around here.
So he's like, okay, well, after all this is done, what do you say we all go down to Florida and we rent a boat and we go out and do some fishing? Does that sound fun? And all of them, they all kind of force out a, yeah, that sounds fun. You can tell none of them want to go deep sea fishing.
It would be one of the last things on my mind right now. But hey, I don't know. Anyway.
So he's like, okay, well, let's
I just want to eat ice cream again.
Yeah. So he's like, okay, let's do it. When this is all done, we'll all go deep sea fishing. And then he's like, but I got to go. So he goes through the tunnels back to the truck. But as he's going there, there's a cave in, and he gets some rocks falling on him.
Right, and so
gets buried a little bit.
He can't get back to them, and he's in the truck, and he keeps falling on the truck.
Before he gets to the truck, when the rocks actually fall on him, his arm breaks.
That's right.
He breaks his arm, so he looks at it, and his bone's sticking out and everything.
He's like, okay. Bond's not worse.
He's down to one arm that he can use, and so he makes it back to the truck, climbs in there, gets in the back seat, and then, more rocks and stuff start falling and crushing the truck, and he can't reach the elf. He can't reach the button on the elf. So finally he gets it, hits the button, but nothing happens. So as the truck is still getting crushed, he bangs on the elf a couple times, then you see the light up and starts beeping.
Yep.
And then it fades to black.
And it cuts to their office back in
Vancouver.
And Terry, he's on his crutches, and he sees a little light blinking. It's like, how long was that light been blinking?
It's like a day or two.
2 days.
A day or two. He says a day or two. The light has been blinking for a day or two. Nobody has thought to check it out. The elf light. They all know what that light is. They all know that's the NASA light. They have been waiting for that. They have been waiting for that light to start blinking. It's blinking for a day or two.
And it's
blinking for 2 damn days.
Leg that has to figure.
And nobody notices. Nobody decides, oh, this light's blinking.
Maybe
let's check it out.
What is it? There's a light that I've never seen blinking before. Started blinking. I'm like, what's this light?
And he just says it all nonchalant. He's like, hey, how long has the light been blinking? The guy's like, no, I don't know, a day or two. You noticed it 2 days ago.
You didn't think to tell somebody.
Meanwhile, Bond has been trapped in a truck underground that has been crushed. He's got a broken arm for 2 days. Sarah Connor's family has been trapped in a mine with who knows what kinds of gases pumping through there. For 2 days. I doubt Graham had 2 days worth of snacks.
No.
Especially for all of them, for all three of them.
All three of them. Maybe he even gave some to the dog.
Maybe.
The dog gets hungry too. So Terry's just like, thank you, NASA.
Yeah. So they locate him and they, pull the truck out and, they pull Bond out of the truck. And he's all covered in dust and dirt and rocks.
He sees his buddies, and they're so thankful. And he asks about Paul, and Paul didn't make it.
Like Paul Wilhelm is playing down the
Sarah
river.
And the kids, they're still back there.
Yeah, and then they come just strolling out of the mine.
Just stroll out.
They're just strolling out of the mine.
They cleared the cave in, and they stroll out. They get in a helicopter and fly to Florida. I don't know. But
no, so they go and Bond goes up and hugs Sarah and kisses her. And then Lauren is like, "Did you mean what you said about taking us fishing?" He's like, "Yes, I did."
And they hug and they kiss. And then you just kind of realize that this entire movie, beyond just showing a volcano exploding, is just essentially how Pierce Brosnan went deep sea fishing. That's right, how James Bond went deep sea fishing in Sarah Connor's Cervex.
Yeah, because after this, they reached all kinds of emotional catharsis.
So that's what happened.
Yeah, so
that's the end of the movie.
Then the credits roll, and
we get a shot again of the peak, and it's Mount St. Helens.
Yeah.
And the credits roll.
It's in the movie. It's not Mount St. Helens, but the filming of it is Mount St. Helens. But yeah. So then the credits roll, and yeah, that's Dante's Peak.
Fun little movie.
Yes, fun movie. I know we were kind of shitting on it a bit, but that's because it's a late '90s disaster movie. It's enjoyable. It's not a great movie by any stretch, but it's enjoyable. It's fun watch. I would recommend watching it if you haven't seen it, just because it's fun. It's entertaining. Definitely. And that's all you really want from a movie, really.
There are disaster movies that are not entertaining.
Yeah.
Or over long. No, it's like this comes in. It's a little under 2 hours.
Yeah, it's an hour and 47 minutes, I think.
Probably the appropriate amount of time. You build up the characters and the situation. You throw the main event, and that's it.
Yeah.
It's not like Day After Tomorrow, which is like a 2.5 hour movie. It's like, come on.
Yeah. They could have trimmed a little bit out of that one. I mean, that wasn't a terrible movie, but it was a little overlong.
So, yeah. So, and maybe after this, you can watch Volcano and compare.
Yeah.
I haven't seen Volcano since 1997.
I haven't seen Volcano since like 98 or 99. So
I think Dante's Peak was aired on TV more often than Volcano was.
Yeah, I think so.
Check it out.
Really, the only part of Volcano that I remember is Tommy Lee Jones trying to redirect the lava with concrete barriers.
Yeah, I love you, Tommy, but no. Stretching things a little bit there.
Yeah. But no, if you haven't seen Dante's Peak, check it out. It's worth a watch. It's a fun movie. Plus, I mean, you got James Bond and Sarah Connor, so you can't really go wrong with that team up.
No, you can't.
But is there anything else that we missed?
I think that's it.
I think so.
Take a look at my looks. Take a quick look at my notes. But yeah, no.
Yeah, I think we hit all the major points. So if you would like to follow us on social media, we are on Facebook and Instagram and Threads. It is Rob and Tony's Cinematic Adventure. The and is spelled out A&D. It's not an ampersand like it is the name of the podcast. And we are also on X or Twitter. That is R&T Cinematic. And if you want to check out our reviews on various movies, some we've done on the podcast, some we haven't done, some we will do, some we won't do, check out our Letterboxd. That is Cine Adventure or Cine Adventure, CINE Adventure. And we want to know what you think about Dante's Peak. So if you want to let us know, you can shoot us an email at robandtonycinematicadventure@gmail.com. Once again, the and is spelled out, A-N-D. It's not an ampersand like the name of the podcast. But yeah, let us know what you think about the movie. Do you like Volcano better? Do you like Dante's Peak better than Volcano? What is your opinion? Do you think we should have done Dante's Peak and Volcano back to back and then compare them? I mean, there's an idea. It's not going to happen at this point in time, but
we could do Armageddon and Deep Impact.
We could.
Back to back.
We could. But let us know what you think. What do you think of the show? Are there movies that you think we should cover? Or are there movies you think we shouldn't cover? We want to do what is going to be pleasing to your ears. So let us know. Reach out to us. We want to hear from you. We want to get you involved. So a good way to get involved is if you enjoy the show, visit our social media, give us a like and a follow, go to your favorite podcast app, hit that subscribe button, and, give us a good review, a good rating. That's how we move up in the standings and the ratings and the search and the recommendations, all that stuff. So, that way we can reach a wider audience and more people can hear about us. And then we can continue to make these episodes that we love doing so much. But next time, we're going to do something fun.
We're sticking with a 90s type movie.
We are going to stick with a 90s movie. But we're
90s Jim Carrey comedy.
Yes, we're going to go a little bit earlier in the 90s. And we're going to do one of those movies one of the early Jim Carrey movies. And also one that really shows Jeff Daniels' range. Because we've talked about Jeff Daniels before in our Looper episode. And so now we're going to talk about him again if you haven't guessed already, we're doing Dumb and Dumber. Fantastic movie. I love it. I love this movie. It's so funny.
It goes to a place called Aspen.
Aspen.
we're very excited about this one.
Yes.
So we hope you join us.
Yes. One of the most quotable movies there is.
Yes.
But yes, so join us next time for Dumb and Dumber.